Hey, have you ever felt like you're carrying the weight of the world's wrongs in your body? Perhaps you feel torn between staying true to your values and complying with what is considered normal. For many highly sensitive people, this inner tension might be familiar. Sensory processing sensitivity often comes with an instinctive concern for fairness, for justice, for the well-being of those around us. What we might describe as moral sensitivity is not something separate or added. It's woven into how many highly sensitive people, or HSPs, notice, feel, and respond to the world. Welcome to the Gentle Rebel podcast. We're continuing a little series unpacking elements of the HSP Owner's Guide, which is a short booklet that introduces sensory processing sensitivity and the ways that it might show up in everyday life for highly sensitive people. We've so far explored physical sensitivity, mental sensitivity, and social sensitivity. And in today's episode, we're going to be looking at moral sensitivity. Now, I realise these aren't necessarily the greatest terms, but they are really the best I could come up with, and they're what we have for now. But hopefully the substance beneath them will be helpful, and it will kind of speak for itself. If you want to download the Owner's Guide, I will put a link in the description. You can get the digital PDF version and also a printable mini zine version, which I'm holding up here for those watching the video. It's a bit bright, you might not be able to see. But yeah, that's it. And it is essentially one piece of paper, prints on both sides, and makes a lovely little pocket companion. So yes, let me just find today's topic. Yeah, there we go. Moral sensitivity. So it's succinct. That's what it looks like in the guide. And I'm just going to unpack some of the ideas that are written in there a little bit more in this episode. So, I'm Andy Mort, by the way, in case we've not been acquainted yet or before. I'm a songwriter and creativity slow coach and run The Haven, the-haven.co, which is an online village for sensitive souls and other gentle rebels, where we have a community. We've got forums and live gatherings there, as well as a library full of resources that we've produced over the past decade or so, and the fireside, where you'll find mini courses and options to work one-to-one with me. Right, on to moral sensitivity. So I'm going to go through the post that I wrote on this as I elaborated on parts of the HSP Owner's Guide. I'm going to read through that and then allow myself, if you're up for it, to go on tangents as and when they occur. If they occur, they might not occur. And before I start, I just should say, when I write and speak about high sensitivity in things like this, I do so not to universalize or tar everyone with the same brush. I'm speaking about traits and tendencies and patterns that we might see in those who are higher in sensory processing sensitivity. So, we're all different. One size fits one. Our personality comes from a complex cocktail of inherited traits, of learned responses, environments, and preferences that we choose along the way through life. So, hopefully that's the ground from which we are moving here. And I just believe that aspects of high sensitivity are important to talk about, because they can feel like flaws, in the context of a world that is often, the opposite of sensitive, and it is fast-paced and doesn't make a lot of space for what is necessary for a highly sensitive nervous system to sort of take its time and go deep and process in that depth that is part of the trait. I guess for those who respond to their innate sensitivity with a desire to squash or to shrink it, I want to provide some other ways of thinking about it, of relating to it, of engaging with it, and hopefully partnering with it, and maybe even enjoying what it makes possible at some point as well. At the very least, to help people feel a little less alone if it seems like you've got a completely different experience of the world to those around you.
We're about to witness the greatest miracle of the machine age.
The Gentle Rebel Podcast.
I'm so glad you could come. This is going to be such an exciting day. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
Okay, alongside the strong internal compass, many highly sensitive people naturally hold values that influence how they interact with life. They may see situations through the lens of deeply personal, ethical, or moral principles. This can fuel a desire for harmony and social cohesion, while also heightening their awareness of injustice or harm. Their choices are often guided by the impact on others, on people, on animals, and on the environment. You may see me do that a little bit as this is one of those useful things when I record a video like this, and I'm reading through a post that I've written. Reading things out loud is really helpful in terms of the editing process sometimes. So yeah, you may hear the click of my keyboard as I delete things. Right, why have I said it like that? But yeah, this often goes beyond simple personal preferences. A sensitive nervous system can feel the weight of a world that seems to clash with deeply held convictions. These values may not come from the people around you, and their origins can be hard to trace. Therefore, this can make it difficult to navigate social norms, especially when your beliefs and values seem out of step with everyday reality. So yeah, this sense that, with a highly sensitive nervous system, you may be picking up on things that really jar internally, the things that you notice and you're like, that doesn't feel right. And it might not be because somebody else has told you that, or you've picked it up because that's a conversation you've had with others, that that there's an internal compass element to this. So what might moral sensitivity look like in a highly sensitive person? Every HSP is different, and our beliefs naturally vary. We do not all approach, value, or hold things with the same convictions, but there are characteristics that are common for many HSPs. So starting with ethical awareness. A clear sense of personal values. So a highly sensitive person may develop and arrive at their own set of foundational values that they live by. These are not necessarily intentionally chosen, but they might be evident in the elements they consider when making decisions and taking action. Sensitivity to injustice, dishonesty, or unfair treatment of others. They might find themselves stirred to action when they witness or experience actions that go against their values. This can even lead to acting against personal interests for the sake of something or someone else. And this is something that will come up again, I think, later. But this idea that I've spoken to many highly sensitive people over the years who find it much easier to stand up on behalf of other people than they do on behalf of themselves when they see things that just don't sit right. And actually they can find this courage, this bravery that doesn't always feel present for them. But when there's something that they want to stand up for, something beyond themselves, they get this strength from somewhere, and they go for it. And I've felt that myself. And I think I feel there's a competitive drive in me that is dormant until I feel a sense of unfairness or injustice, or I see somebody acting in a way that is like, no, that's not okay. And then I go into competitive mode. It's a funny thing. Discomfort with actions or systems that violate deeply held principles. Highly sensitive people might be aware of the role of dehumanizing systems, processes, and attitudes which step outside of their moral and ethical values. Then deep reflection on meaning. A tendency to question purpose, both in personal life and broader societal structures. So this might happen quietly in your heart and mind, or it might be with some trusted confidants who you can, be open with and have deep conversations about this sort of stuff with, or it could occur in a broader capacity. Probably a mix of all three, if that third one is also true, where, maybe you've got some kind of platform that you like to use to kind of make a statement, to try and make that difference, to turn those feelings into action at a broader level. Interest in philosophical, spiritual, or ethical frameworks. So highly sensitive people might connect with ideas that give scaffolding to their values. They might adopt them fully or build their own from joining dots and piecing things together. This is sort of finding ways to map those personal values onto something like a pre-existing value system or belief system or, community, whatever it is. I know a lot of people for whom it might be a bit pick and mix, and I'll take a bit from that and a bit from this, and we become these hybrid cocktails who are difficult to pigeonhole at times. And I think that's another really interesting thing about a lot of highly sensitive people. There's this tendency to not want to adopt pigeonholing labels and put ourselves in boxes, which is always this tension when using even the term highly sensitive person, because what does that mean? What is the purpose of adopting that label, and how does that both limit and free us? And as I always say with labels, it's like they're really useful until they're no longer useful. I've talked about the solid rocket booster analogy before many times. I did in the last episode, I was talking about Duolingo and the tools that we use. And I think it's the same for labels. It can be really helpful. They give us awareness about things that are true for us that might not be true for other people. And they can help us, manage things in different ways and adapt and get things in place so that we can be more effective in the ways that we want to be. But then there might come a tipping point where that label becomes a crutch. Even a crutch is helpful until it's not. Once that healing has taken place, we can sort of jettison the crutch, so to speak, like the rocket booster. Otherwise, it might cause further harm, or it might limit us, restrict us in ways that aren't necessarily necessary. Yes, I've gone on tangents. It's happened. I knew that might happen. I gave myself permission for that, so it's okay. This is the problem, though. I can't remember where I tangented from. They might adopt them fully. Yes, there we go. Next one is so still within deep reflection on meaning, an intuitive sense of what feels morally right or wrong in different contexts. Many HSPs tend to notice patterns across contexts. This underpins trust or distrust without overt evidence for it. Just feeling like, picking up on patterns, the nervous system always scanning for signs of safety and signals of danger. And it might be that actually, there's something in the language that someone's using or the way something feels in a particular situation that's like, this doesn't quite feel right. This is giving off alarm bells. It's not necessarily that there is anything in that, and it doesn't mean I need to leave this place, but it's okay, I'm just going to choose how to hold this moment, hold this situation, and I will proceed with that in mind, and notice what I'm noticing along the way. Responsibility and diligence, a desire to act in alignment with personal ethics. So decisions and choices often made with a desire for a deeper sense of meaning or purpose. Yep. Disturbance when witnessing hypocrisy or people acting without integrity. Needing to do something when seeing people deliberately manipulating, deceiving, or taking advantage of others. Yes, this is probably the exact thing that drove me to spend such a ridiculous amount of time producing those videos about the Let Them theory and Mel Robbins earlier this year. And I think that is part of this. It was something that was driven by that feeling that, yeah, this really jars. Something doesn't feel right about this at all. And it was then I need to do something with that feeling. I need to release it. I need to, turn it outwards creatively in order to fully process it and let it be what it needs to be. Feeling personally accountable for doing the right thing, quote unquote. HSPs may put their needs, preferences, and interests second to the right decision. So again, this might be that, you act counter to what might be deemed in your best self-interest. And one of the elements of high sensitivity is this communal aspect. It's the sense that, I'm okay if the group is okay. And that is often the experience for those who are higher in sensitivity. The empathy piece is like, it's noticing and absorbing the moods of others so that you can kind of do what needs to be done to bring some harmony and some calm and some peace to that collective nervous system, so that there is safety then for you as an individual. And I think that's probably a key part of that survival instinct, which may look like doing something against your own personal interests, but actually, if it's in the interests of a group, potentially, and we can have maladapted ways, especially in a hyper individualized society, that can look like doing things that actually doesn't have that end result, because it might just be people taking advantage of what might be described as your better nature or one's better nature. But it's probably more just your nature. It's just what comes naturally. Sensitivity to moral nuance. So noticing nuances in ethical dilemmas that others might overlook. Highly sensitive people might see nuance where others paint a simplistic picture. Struggling with situations where no choice feels fully just or fair. They might feel the weight of decisions they had to make, but which had costs to them. I don't know if you ever get that, where you wake up maybe in the middle of the night and think about a decision you had to make a decade ago, 2 decades ago, 6 decades ago, and it's like, still sitting there, and just rears its head every so often. Processing moral questions for longer periods before reaching conclusions. HSPs may need more time before forming an opinion or judgment. So this speaks to some of the stuff we were talking about with the social sensitivity, and especially that icebreaker thing, like being expected to come out with something immediately. And when we look at kind of moral sensitivity and forming opinions, like before we've done the processing, before we've started to think, okay, there's this element, and connecting dots with this, and actually it's a little bit more complex than I would like it to be. It's a bit more complex than it's being made out to be, whether on social media or in the way that people are talking about it or the way it's presented in the media. It kind of takes time to come to a place where, I'm pretty confident in the integrity of my opinion, in the judgment that I've made there, and I'm also open to that being changed if other information comes to light. So the next main section here is how moral sensitivity shows up in daily life. So personal relationships. HSPs may be particularly attuned to imbalances in fairness, such as one-sided friendships or unequal effort in partnerships. They might find their ethical concerns belittled or dismissed as overthinking, or hear others tell them to stop worrying or just let it go. And again, this, I think, it's a huge thing, really, where if you're with people who sort of dismiss your processing, because it really is, a lot of the time I'm needing to process how I feel and think about these things and connecting those dots. And I'm doing that out loud. I'm doing it in conversation with others. And when that's shut down or dismissed as, oh, you're overthinking, or you need to just let this go, like this is not your problem, then that sort of turns us inward. It's a bit like how, shyness becomes a learned trait when it's, when maybe our natural tendency to pause and observe before entering a room or going into a social situation is interpreted as shyness, and it's described as such. And it's, you hear that from people. Oh, don't be shy. Come on, let's just come on in. Those messages, especially when they're repeated, they integrate and they become true for us, and we may shut ourselves down and try and turn off that moral sensitivity because it's not deemed as acceptable and it's not welcome in those environments where it isn't welcome. Then work and social settings. Workplace policies or societal norms that seem unjust can be unsettling. HSPs may feel compelled to speak up about ethical concerns. Some might find themselves advocating for policies or speaking on behalf of others. This is because it is sometimes easier to stand up for others than for themselves. That's what I talked about earlier. Yeah, the sense that actually when you have it's almost a proxy that you can speak on behalf of or engage with the issue through. And I feel the injustice that's going on, the unfairness or the impact of this policy, not just on this person, but on future people, on the way that things are, the trajectory of this company or this decision-making process. It's moving in a direction that I can see it's going to take us here. And so, yeah, it might become more urgently compelling to stand up for those things that you notice in that sense. They might not be naturally competitive until they encounter unfairness or injustice. The desire to put things right can ignite a competitive spark in a sensitive person. I'd be really interested to know if this is true for other people. It's certainly true for me. That actually, I'm not particularly competitive in things like sport until I encounter someone acting in a way that just internally I'm like, no, that's not right. And there can be different reasons for that. I think I respond to arrogance with that. I respond to cheating with that. And always drawn to the underdog. I know many people are. But I'd be interested to hear from you if this is something that rings true. Self-expectations. A strong internal drive to act with integrity, sometimes leading to self-criticism if they fall short of their own standards. Difficulty moving on from past decisions that did not fully align with their values. They might be haunted by moments where they acted out of integrity. So that again is something that I have definitely experienced, where it's like, I can't believe I let myself do that. It's so easy to just beat yourself up because you made a decision that doesn't fit with those values that are held more deeply. And then, navigating the challenges of moral sensitivity, balancing idealism with realism. While moral clarity can be an anchor, holding too tightly to rigid expectations often leads to disappointment, resentment, or even burnout. It can help to remember that most decisions and situations exist in shades of grey. Rarely are choices purely right or wrong, and learning to live with the ambiguity can ease internal pressure. And, it is the case that a lot of the time, actually, we can be quite good at seeing the nuance and realizing, there's loads of layers to this issue. It's not this black and white thing. But then when we come to our own relationship with a particular thing, it might feel like there's a right way of engaging and a wrong way of engaging. And we can beat ourselves up if we get that wrong, perhaps. Or if we feel like we've got that wrong. Then managing emotional responses to injustice. So being attuned to injustice can take an emotional toll, especially when exposed to distressing news, conversations, or environments that feel out of alignment with core values. And we can use creativity to process situations. So this is a big part of what I believe can be really helpful and freeing for a lot of people, which is, a creative practice that can help us explore, what is it that we think about this? And it can help us do that a lot of the time without needing to directly focus on the thing in question. So, for me, songwriting is a huge part of the way that I respond to and process things going on in the world or in my life, in kind of the small world around me and the big world at large. And that works to help me, it's the old Flannery O'Connor quote about, I don't know what I think until I read what I say, as a writer. And I think that can be profoundly true on a lot of levels. So it's untangling the thoughts within us, untangling the feelings, turning them outwards, turning them into something tangible. And that might be enough, just allowing it to come out in that way. That might be the response. But it also can provide options for deeper action, whether you're kind of making art and sharing that with others, or it's shown you that, no, I want to get more directly involved in this. I want to take action. Or, that's enough. I just want to let go now. There's nothing that I can personally do more of in this situation. But I've come to that decision not out of despair, but out of a creative processing, a creative engagement with the thing in question. And then not taking over responsibility for things that are outside of our control and outside of our sphere of influence. So it's easy for highly sensitive people to feel responsible for solving every moral issue they encounter, but this can quickly lead to overwhelm or compassion fatigue. Recognizing and accepting that no single person can solve every problem is essential for long-term well-being. Many highly sensitive people benefit from focusing their energy on causes, relationships, or actions where their input feels both meaningful and sustainable. This is instead of trying to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. As Dorcas Cheng-Tozen writes in Social Justice for the Sensitive Soul, a great conversation with Dorcas about that book, not everyone responds in the same way. Working towards a fairer, more just world is not a one-size-fits-all process. It calls for each of us to honour who we are. Rather, we must avoid forcing ourselves to fit a prescribed image of what a social justice advocate should look like. So, it's this idea that actually, we all have different ways of being, different things that we are good at, different things we want to do. And actually there's space for it all. And not only space for it all, but there's a necessary need for different ways of highlighting things and acting, responding to things. Finding like-spirited communities. Moral sensitivity can sometimes feel isolating, especially if others dismiss it as unnecessary or excessive. Connecting with others who share a similar perspective on the world can help reduce feelings of isolation and loneliness. This is especially true when you don't have to explain yourself or feel defensive about the things you naturally care about. And that's a huge thing that a lot of highly sensitive people talk about as being a real balm. And I don't know if you've experienced, I guess, probably the distinction between those two things. You know, when you feel constantly like if you're wanting to talk about the things that matter to you, the things you care about, and it always feels like a fight, or someone's, you know, constantly just pushing back against anything that you say, and they're in that position there, and you have to justify yourself, you have to defend your position, and how just totally exhausting that can be, compared with people who are not necessarily at the level of the content of what you're saying, but just in the understanding of who you are at the level of being, at the level of, you know, you as a sensitive, feeling, thinking person. You know, these aspects of you are just accepted, and, you know, you don't need to justify them or any of that stuff. And so, right from the word go, you feel a sense of safety in that, and a sense of acceptance and welcome. Right, and so that's the end. Sensitivity is a natural and neutral trait. This idea of moral sensitivity is neither a flaw nor a superpower. It's simply one way many highly sensitive people process and engage with the world around them. For some, it can deepen relationships and decision making. For others, it may feel like a heavy weight to carry. And so the key is in this sense of self-awareness around it, recognizing when this sensitivity is guiding us towards meaningful action, finding creative practices that help us process, reflect, and express what needs to be processed, reflected on, and expressed. Knowing when it may just be inviting us to a patience, a gentleness, a compassion with ourselves and with those around us. And actually the thing we need to do is to model that to others, and to model the holding of nuance, the holding of life in all its greyness, in the best possible way, the non-binary, non-black and white nature of so many of these issues that we polarize into so often in modern life. And I think that is a big part of what can weigh heavy in a highly sensitive nervous system as well, is this demand to box ourselves in, to take sides, to be part of, you know, this or that, so that we can be identified by others as, I need to understand you, so I need to know where you sit on this issue. And if I know where you sit on this issue, I know where you sit on every issue. And I think, from my own perspective and from many of the conversations I have with more sensitive people, it's not that simplistic. And I don't think it should be that simplistic. I think simplisticness being different from simplicity. Simplistic is this side of complexity, as the old saying goes, and simple is that side of complexity. You have to go through the nuance to understand, you know, what the simple is. Whereas on this side of complexity, you are at a point of ignorance or naivety. And I think that's where a lot of our conversations sit in the modern world, about all sorts of things that we, if we're honest, don't actually have any expertise in, but we pretend to. So to finish, I will just ask this question, or something akin to this. You can adapt this as you like. because I don't think I've quite nailed it yet. What impact does sensitivity to moral and ethical issues have on your decision making? So yeah, think about maybe some of the things that we've explored through this episode, and consider your relationship with those deeply held values. Do those drive the decisions that you make, the beliefs that you hold? And yeah, have you ever experienced a situation where you've gone against what would be your self-interest in order to uphold something outside of you that is deemed more important than self-preservation in that sense? I'd love to hear from you. Do drop a comment on social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment below or send me a message. You can message me through The Haven. If you just go to the-haven.co, then you can drop me a message directly there. Absolutely love hearing from people who have listened to episodes of the podcast. It's great to know what you've heard and what's spoken to you. So yeah, please do that. Go and pick up the HSP Owner's Guide if you haven't yet got that. It's totally free. I'll drop a link below. And yeah, love to hear what you think of that as well. All right, I will be back again soon with another episode of the Gentle Rebel podcast. Until then, do remember that you are an artist. The world needs your art. Now go and make somebody's day. Bye-bye.
So shines a good deed in a weary world.